All right, hello and welcome back to the Carl Jackson
Your daily
Show.
dose of objective truth in a world of confusion.
We're going to be talking about that. I'm going to break it
policy,
down. Because their policies are killing people.
Very important. We've got to restore sanity in America, and I think it's going to start happening.
All right, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show. This is your daily dose of objective truth, your daily dose of freedom. Appreciate you joining us this evening. I got a lot of topics that I'm going to be hitting tonight. I have a guest joining me that I'll get to in just a second here. And you can probably see him on the screen. The man is heavy into politics and he's staying pretty busy. And I absolutely love it. It's fine. But some things that I'm going to sound off on. I didn't get an opportunity last week. Carmelo Anthony was denied a retrial after he murdered Austin Metcalf. That happened pretty quickly. I love the way the judge just put an end to that nonsense over the weekend. So I will opine on that momentarily. The Supreme Court hands Trump preliminary victories on mail-in ballots. I will be getting into that with my guest. I didn't speak on the attempted, or at least not much, on the attempted terror attack on the New York State Capitol last week. I'm going to I'm going to connect the dots with some of these candidates, these DSA candidates, because I fear that some of these candidates, like the El Saids of the world, are using socialism as a Trojan horse for Islamism. We'll get into that. Did Jesse Waters, speaking of, just in the campaign of El Said? I want to touch on that. Scott Bessent announces Operation Economic Outcast. All eyes are on the South Carolina primary as we speak. And now joining me is my guest, the president of the Conservative Caucus, Jim Paff. I've had him on before. This guy knows the ins and outs of politics. He's worked on Capitol Hill. He knows how the sausage is made. Jim, welcome back to the program. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for having me on, Carl. Glad to be with you again.
All right. Yes, sir. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I love your wisdom. I love your knowledge when it comes to politics here. Let's start here. Wall Street Journal had a piece earlier, and obviously the Trump administration is pursuing this. The Trump administration is preparing to revoke up to 200,000 visas from so-called asylum seekers. Let me get your initial response.
In this case, it's appropriate. What's happening here is that these are people who came in on HB1 and HB2 visas, and then later they and between, I think it's between 2016 and 2026, and they later sought asylum in the United States. When you have an HB1, HB2 visa, you're intended to be going back to your country at some time. So that's the basic construct of those visas. And so if you turn that into an asylum request, utilizing that process getting in, the Trump administration is saying that's fraudulent. That's a fraudulent use of the immigration process. And I think that they're right to consider it that way. And so they're beginning this process. It'll be relatively slow. They say approximately 200,000. But the reality is that we have to enforce immigration policy. I mean, it's just another in a train of things that Donald Trump's doing to try to clean up the massive immigration problem we have, which has been mostly opening up the border that's taken place under the Biden administration in particular. But it also happens with misuse of the asylum process outside of border crossings and other aspects of our immigration policy. And what's interesting about this, and the basic argument that people on the left make when they're trying to oppose this, is they say, well, when this happens, the way the Trump administration is taking care of it violates due process. But the reality is, people here on non-citizen status of any sort, they don't enjoy the same due process rights. There are some process things put into our immigration code which allows for some adjudication, but it's not the same as a full due process right that Americans enjoy. These things can be determined by the Department of Justice under the advisement of the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State has certain authorities that he or she can undertake, and in this case, Marco Rubio can undertake to deal with these things. That's what the Trump administration is doing. They're right to do it. We've got still a massive problem. And in fact, I think there are reasons to be slightly critical of the Trump administration for not getting more people out of here. But they are doing a really solid job. And this is just one step in trying to get this back in order.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people will look at us as meanies here, Jim. Again, I'm speaking to my guest, Jim Paff of the Conservative Caucus, the conservativecaucus.com, the conservativecaucus.com, the conservativecaucus.com. If you want to know the ins and outs of politics, and now a passion that he has for polling as well, I encourage you to follow Jim. The guy knows his stuff. I was in actually X Spaces with him, and I tend to stay quiet in X Spaces, or at least I did. I don't go in as frequently as I used to in the past. And there were always a couple of people that I was just so impressed with that knew what they were talking about when it came to again, how the sausage is made inside of D.C. And this was one of the guys. So it's always it's nice to have him on. It's nice to have him as a resource here. Jim, listen, this is absolute nonsense. The left knows what they're doing. There's no reason for these people to be able to come to America. We allow them, we give them the privilege to come to the United States of America. They come here on business visas. They come here on the tourism visas. I'm not even sure exactly what all of the tourism visa entails, quite frankly. But then these people to claim asylum in order to stay inside of the United States is absolutely asinine to me. I don't think they left their country for fear of death or religious persecution, so on, et cetera. They wanted to pursue a better life in the United States of America. And I'm tired of Democrats talking about I'm tired of Democrats framing this nonsense as if we're kicking out citizens when these people are not citizens. I think we've got to be the dumbest. I'm not sure that any other country is dumb enough to do what we do. We literally allow in nearly 1 million legal immigrants every year. This despite the fact that we had an invasion on our border for 4 years straight under the Biden administration. And now we have to deal with the nonsense from the left that don't want to get rid of these people because, in my opinion, Jim, they're afraid that if any of these people leave, they're basically losing votes.
Well, that's actually a huge part of why they want to do this. There are other things, too. I mean, so many were castigated for promoting what the left always called, and left and Democrats always called the Great Replacement Theory. They said that was false. That's not happening. What are you talking about? Well, in reality, it has been happening. And we see it now more clearly than before. Like they might have had an argument that could be misunderstood because people didn't know all the information. Well, we got the information now. And I know we'll probably talk about the ruling on the post office later, which is attempting to stop illegals from voting. These people Democrats need illegals to win elections. We already know that there are hundreds of thousands of illegals that are registered to vote. We don't know. I don't think we have the number yet precisely how many have actually voted, but we know it's happening. We know it happened, for example, in New Jersey, and they fudged their numbers. They're much lower than they actually are, but New Jersey admitted that they had 400 to 500 people voted illegally and 6,600 people on the voter rolls. It's happening. And the other problem that is taking place here is that there are many states that will give illegals driver's licenses. Well, we've got what's called the motor voter law that's been around for a long period of time. It's now under the name HAVA. It was adjusted. And that law allows for voter registration in the license branch. Now, we never did do that in this country until about the 1990s. You had to go and purposefully register yourself to vote. They know that if they have these people in the country, that they can take advantage of them that way. But they give other benefits as well, too. Even if they're not voting, we also know that the Census Bureau was counting our census wrong.
Right.
They would actually include illegals in the counts, and illegals tend to go to sanctuary cities and sanctuary states that tend to be Democrat states to take out that would take out certain or would add, to the vote in certain congressional districts. So reapportionment, the last one we went through in 2020, was frankly incredibly skewed. That's one of the reasons you had the redistricting battles that have been taking place in 2025 and 2026. So this is a plan of the Democrats. It's part of their strategy. It's why Mark Elias was leading the charge to stop the post office from implementing what Donald Trump is attempting to implement to stop this problem. So this is a real issue, and we got to cut it off. And Donald Trump's the only guy that's ever really tried.
Yeah, this is so important, such an important argument or important point that Jim Paff is making of the conservativecaucus.com. They want illegals in as well. Obviously, they can get more House seats, more federal funding. They want to abolish the Electoral College. So make no mistake about it. Democrats have a plan, and that plan includes illegal immigration. This is the Carl Jackson Show.
The flood of people, at least 10 million illegals, have poured into this country.
Has the American dream disappeared, or is it waiting to be rebuilt? This weekend, the America 250 film series presents Return of Our American Dream. Hear the stories that confront decline, restore hope, and call Americans back to opportunity, work, family, and freedom. Saturday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Salem News Channel.
Listen, law enforcement never looks pretty. It never looks pretty. So I can understand why when you're looking at that, you're like, oh, my goodness, can't they handle things a different way? No, we can't. I mean, honestly, we have to make sure. And I know that there's some people that come here. They want a better opportunity. I get it. You cannot cut in front of the line. And I'm sorry, illegal immigration impacts everybody. It impacts every American. It impacts the legal, the person that did it legally. It impacts the youth. The youth is concerned about affordability. Well, one aspect is rent affordability. You know, from previous shows of mine with the Center for Immigration Studies, Mark Krikorian and his crew, that, I mean, rental prices in some cities are going down because illegals are having to go home. I mean, it really does have an impact. When you see a video like that, Jim, I mean, a lot of you put this type of video on CNN and they will to make things look bad. But bottom line is all these ICE heroes are doing, in my opinion, or actually not in my opinion, factually doing, are just enforcing the laws that Congress has passed.
They are. You're always in any police force, any police effort that happens, whether it's of a federal nature like ICE or any local police department, you're obviously going to have errors here and there. But the authorities that ICE is using to undertake these activities is clearly spelled out in the law. There's no ambiguity about it. And this person, I mean, it may seem really, dirty looking or whatever your thought is when you watch the video, but in reality, it's not just them. The ICE officers trying to perform their duties. It's someone that's resisting them performing their duties. And that is a huge problem. In fact, almost all of the criticism against ICE, saying that they're like a Gestapo and all these words that Democrats use to go against ICE, all they're doing is twisting the situations as they occur and taking things like this video or stories that come out of these sort of arrests that are taking place and twisting it against ICE when the people themselves are not doing what they ought to do. And listen, ICE I'm sure that they've made some mistake. Sure. Someone's going to find an anecdotal evidence of some mistake that was made in terms of someone that they arrest. Some of those have come out there. But the vast majority of these are entirely legal and in fact, not just are they part of the law that they must do it, they're duty bound to do it because that is what they are supposed to do. Donald Trump actually is duty bound to do what he's been doing with ICE. And it's something, by the way, that is overblown during the Trump administration. Like everyone's complaining about it when it happens in all administrations. But the focus and degree to which he is doing it is greater than previous presidents who have not been very strong about this. Now, to be candid, the Obama administration was spending a lot of effort in ICE deporting people, and his numbers overall were greater than what Donald Trump's been able to do so far in his administration, and certainly he's going to be able to do much more. But no one criticizes Obama for doing the very same thing that Donald Trump was doing, or at least doing it in a similar way. Donald Trump must do it, or he's not upholding the office of president. The laws on the books he is required to enforce. His cabinet members and those in the administration who are assigned these various duties, he is duty bound to direct them to do it in the proper way. The lawlessness that has existed, certainly in the Biden administration and many administrations before that, is an outrage, and Americans should be upset if Donald Trump weren't doing this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I would even make this point here, Jim, as far as President Trump not being able to eclipse Obama when it comes to these numbers. I mean, the judges weren't activists towards Obama when he was in office. I mean, they let everything fly through. With Trump, everything, literally everything the man does is a fight in the court system, which tells you why it's really important that when Republican presidents get in office, you need to fill their cabinet. But Republicans should fill their cabinet positions as quickly as possible. You have to make a fight for the courts because you got a bunch of activists, American hating activists on the courts, or at least liberals, far left liberals, in my opinion, that just don't have the same view of secure borders and sovereignty that many of us on the right have. I want to play another video for you real quickly here. If we could go to cut number 3 here, Gabe. This is a poll from CNN, basically admitting 76% of Black Americans are demanding voter ID. 82% of white voters or 85% of white voters, 82% of Latino voters. I suspect the others want to cheat, or they're extremely woke, are not really paying attention to politics. But if we could roll cut number 3, por favor, Gabe.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of Black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote. So something of a non.
So I have a theory here, Jim Paff of the Conservative Caucus.com. I have a theory, and I love Harry Anton. But when CNN is out there parroting numbers like this, I think it's a warning to Democrats. I mean, it is information that is useful and accurate, I believe, and that we all need and could use. But I also think when CNN is talking about it, it's saying, hey, listen, Democrats, this isn't a hill that you want to die on.
There's certainly some degree of that. But keep in mind, these numbers are propagating themselves as they're also sharing these other numbers, too. You know, I always say this. The American people are often, when it comes to elections, when it comes to what's happening with policy, they're often slow on the uptake, but they ultimately get it. The American people are not dumb. They do know what's going on. Now, you've got a group of Americans, probably 25, 30% of them, that are so radicalized on the left and such committed Democrat voters that you can't move their minds. But in 2024, you had independents and Hispanic folks and a large number of folks in the Black community that voted for Donald Trump because they got frustrated with everything that has been happening. So sure, this is a warning to Democrats, but if it is, they're not taking it. They're doing just the opposite. They're fighting against these things. The real problem with these particular numbers related to voter ID and the support for it around the country, which is massive, is that Republicans won't act on it by passing the Save America Act. John Thune has been entirely a wimp. And in fact, most of the problems that Democrats have caused in this country have been because of Republican leadership fecklessness, cowardice, unwillingness to press the agenda that the American people are really just striving for. I mean, this is the reason, part of the reason that Donald Trump has ever became president and got elected twice, maybe 3 times if he has something to say about it. But because they want these things to change in this manner. So, I mean, it's a message, but the Democrats aren't getting it. Republicans should get it, and they're not.
Michael Savage would always say borders, language, culture. I'm sure he probably still says the same. And it's so true. This is so important. This is what makes the Save America Act so important. I've heard some conservatives argue it's not going to make that big of a difference. No, it's going to make a heck of a lot of it, a heck of a big difference. In my opinion, you want people to feel secure or know that their elections are secure. You don't want to leave the doors open for fraud and for cheating. You want to encourage less of it. You want to make sure that people understand that their vote counts and it's not being nullified by some fraudster. And this is so important. And frankly, I don't want places like California to be able to continue to do what they do, where you don't have to have ID. You can anybody can show up. You've had video of James O'Keefe out there, and I think it was Minnesota, where he could vouch for like 8 people. Just absolutely insane to me. The only thing I would say for the Republican Party is the DSA is a blessing from heaven for them in these midterms. 30 seconds here, Jim.
Yeah, no, I think the DSA is becoming an ick factor. I think that was highlighted with El Sayed running in Michigan Senate on Jesse Waters the other night when he was really weird. So I think there is an ick factor growing, and Republicans need to take advantage of it.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, Jim, I appreciate you coming on. I hope Republicans are listening. All right. Jim Paff, thefreedomcaucus.com, Freedom Caucus, theconservativecaucus.com, theconservativecaucus.com, theconservativecaucus.com. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Carl.